Recently, there was an article posted by GameStop that was an interview with HoYoverse on some hot topics. One of these topics in particular, talking about Endgame, has stirred up quite a hot pot in the community. A lot of people are taking sides, mainly around the Endgame question that's talked about in this article. Originally, I too was going to take a side and explain my viewpoints and criticism, but I've opted to instead describe and cover both sides of the community. This is because I feel like right now the endgame players and content creators are shouting above the casuals and they are not getting their voice heard. The format of this video will be going over the questions, Hoyo's response, and then both sides of the particular issue. So let's first take a look at the question and response. So if you look here, the key notes of this response lie in the first paragraph. HoYoverse makes it clear that they do not intend to make an endgame that is similar to the Spiral Abyss. You may initially think that they do not plan on making endgame content, period. However, the second paragraph suggests that they do plan on making more endgame content, but that content will not be combative in nature like the Spiral Abyss is. They are saying they are more interested in other non-combative endgame experiences like the card game they will be coming out with, rather than an endgame that tests out your combat abilities. This has led to a lot of outrage within the community and somewhat of a civil war between two types of players. In one camp, there are casual players who log in and love playing 10 minutes a day and don't engage with the Spiral Abyss. And in the other camp, there are players who have farmed heavily for artifacts, enjoy doing the Spiral Abyss, and want more endgame content to test out their characters in a combative, difficult environment. There has also been a lot of contention as to the reasoning for this. HoYoverse says two things in this sentence. First, they say they don't want to create another combative endgame because it would create excess anxiety. This has made a lot of endgame players upset and has actually led to a lot of fire because Hoyo doesn't specify the source of anxiety. Is it anxiety from not getting the most powerful and meta characters and feeling pressure to always keep up with the meta banners? Is it anxiety in the literal sense that they don't want to add more combative experiences that give players anxiety? For example, the Spiral Abyss does give anxiety, and so do weekly bosses. In the moment-to-moment gameplay, you're worried about hitting your abilities, properly iframing, and triggering reactions. Is it anxiety in the sense that players will feel pressured to do this sort of content even if they don't want to? There are many interpretations to this, and because they don't specify, a lot of people talk over each other's heads and fail to recognize each other's points. The second part of this sentence says that not everyone is interested in doing the Spiral Abyss. This is a more concrete answer, but it begs the question as to why they added the anxiety part in the first place if they could have simply said that they feel not enough players want an endgame combat system to warrant the resources to make one. I think to summarize and understand this debate, it's better if I present two people from the two different camps. I've looked at hundreds upon hundreds of comments, and came across these two comments on both Reddit and YouTube respectively. I picked out these two comments specifically because I think they are very well thought out and make some good points. However, I will not disclose their names, only their comments. The first comment is from the casual player. I found this in a Reddit thread, and I would like you to keep an open mind when you listen to what this casual commenter has to say. I don't want the Spiral Abyss or more endgame content that's centered around combat, because it is too challenging and difficult. It is annoying to do it. I feel forced to do it though because it gives Primogems as a reward. I'd rather not have it in the game at all because I feel pressure to do content that I don't want to do. There are also some people who treat you like trash and are very toxic if you say you can't clear the Spiral Abyss. Or they will make fun of you for the team comps or characters that you use because they aren't meta. I like to use Chi-Chi and Yoimiya, but people always make fun of me for saying I like these characters, or that I'm stupid for pulling for them, and that I shouldn't be complaining that I can't clear the Abyss. The Abyss is easy for a lot of people, but it's not easy for me, and that makes me feel embarrassed or like I'm not good enough at the game. It makes me feel more and more pressure to get characters that everyone is talking about and that are meta. To me, it seems that people are trying to justify making more content that gives them more Primogems. This will make the game more pay-to-win than it already is. On top of all of this, there are a lot of people who don't do the Abyss because they think that the effort isn't worth the reward. Hoyo has already given players events that are very challenging with little rewards and saw that people were complaining that the rewards weren't enough. I highly doubt that hardcore endgame players want more difficult content for the sake of trying out their characters. Not enough people were trying out these events at the highest difficulty, so they decided it was not worth pursuing adding more combat-focused content. It's obvious that it would be a waste of resources for the company to make something that most players won't even engage with. Even grinding for artifacts for me is mainly to have fun in the overworld and see big damage numbers when I kill a pack of treasure hoarders. It's simply fun to build up a character. I don't need anything to test out my character's strength or get sweaty about it. I simply want to play and have fun with the characters that I have and not stress out about the time remaining or whatever the challenge is. I love logging in every day for 15 minutes, doing my dailies while I drink my morning coffee, and then leaving. I'm not some degenerate teenager who has tons of hours to sink into an MMO or an endgame. Endgame players are not the target audience. This is supposed to be a casual game for casual people. If you don't like that, then stop complaining and quit the game. Go play something else. That was the comment from the casual player. I think he made some interesting points. And now, after going over that, we're going to look at the other side of the camp. We're going to be looking at someone who has, who I believe to be an endgame player. This was a comment from someone in MTash's comment section. And again, I would like you to keep an open mind as you listen to this endgame player's comment. The main reason I play Genshin is that I love theory crafting and the combat system. It is by far one of the best, if not the best, combat system we have in video games. I need a reason to log in every day. I like progressing and building up my characters, but I have no reason to log in and build up my artifacts because the game is too easy and therefore boring. There's no more content for me to play with. I love the game and want to play the game more, but I literally can't do that. Having more endgame content to do would increase the longevity of the game. Whales also need a reason to whale. The main reason why people pull for weapons or stronger constellations is to make characters stronger. Genshin's monetization system is literally connected to their combat system, and yet I have no content to use my C2 rate in. If people legitimately feel like they get anxiety from endgame content, they don't need to do it. It's totally optional. Adding more endgame content doesn't really hurt anyone, as it would be completely optional. I don't even need primos. The Spiral Abyss barely gives enough primo gems for 3 wishes anyways. This whole excess anxiety argument is stupid because you are playing an anxiety-inducing game. It's a gacha game, and you are gambling with limited resources or even money, which gives you anxiety. Artifact rolling gives you anxiety because that's more gambling. Not to mention the insane amount of FOMO this game has with all its limited time events and banners. I don't completely understand this excess anxiety when you're literally playing a gacha game that is by design giving you anxiety. It also bothers me that other people are so against the idea of adding an endgame and would go so far to say that the Spiral Abyss should be removed. You can have both endgame and casual content. They aren't mutually exclusive. It's so unbelievably selfish. It wouldn't cost that many resources to improve the endgame. They could do a few simple things like giving you the ability to increase your world level so that bosses are harder. They could make it so that bounties are harder and add level 200 monsters to them. Quick note, by the way, I believe that's a suggestion that Jeff gave. That's probably where they got that idea. Anyways, to continue. Even if they wanted to add a new game mode, they could absolutely afford the time and money for it because they are a multi-billion-dollar company. Also been previous events like the Labyrinth event that they could import into the main game. They've already made it. Combat is an essential and core part of the game. That's why you can upgrade artifacts, talents, characters, and weapons. It's also why there's such a big theory crafting community. I don't care as much about the rewards. I have to have difficult content, challenges, and reasons for my highly invested characters. If anything, the players are suffering from excessive boredom, not excessive anxiety. I am not asking for more rewards. I am asking for more things to do with the characters that I have built up, because that's what's fun to me. It feels like I've wasted all this time and resources for nothing. There's a crazy amount of potential for this game, and to see it not reach the potential that it deserves is incredibly frustrating. I will never spend a dime on this game or any of Hoyo's games ever again. So, as you can see, these two types of people are polar opposites. It seems to me that a compromise would have to be an endgame system that wouldn't cost too many resources to make and isn't very rewarding, so that casuals don't feel pressured to do the content or follow the meta.
Has anybody else read this article, made a video, and told us why these changes are good? Or is there a reason why I have not seen a single other content creator? And keep in mind, I'm recording this on October 2nd. Is there any video of somebody saying these changes are good?
Well, now I have, so yes. I think we can all agree, though, that the real winner here is Ethan Anderson for posting this article. Probably got a promotion after all this ad revenue this article generated. Oh, and by the way, these weren't two different people. It was me who wrote those two comments.